Bases dropped. Packed Friday edition of Soccer Down here. We got games to talk about. We got games to preview. We got Atlanta United hosting Nashville SC tomorrow night. Doug Robertson will join us at 10:30. Mike Conti will join us at 10 o'clock. We've got games from last night to talk about. We got all kinds of things to talk about. Champions League final, Europa League final, UEFA Women's Champions League today, the quarterfinals start. All sorts of stuff. And we're going to kick it off with something that I teased at the end of this show yesterday. So those of you who are part of our Patreon had an opportunity to go ahead and claim yours, and you know what's coming. But those of you who are not, there's been requests for a throwback scarf. For those of you who were around at that time, we're going back to middle to late, probably about this time, maybe a little bit before this time, in 2016, when Jarrett Smith and I started the Peachtree Post. And you've requested a throwback scarf, and it is a Peachtree Post themed scarf. And it is going up right now on the Twitters. I should have had the tweet typed up, but it's a Friday, so being prepared and stuff is kind of just a guess at this point. So the pre-sale is jumping up on our Twitter at Soccer Down Here, and you'll be able to see what this scarf looks like. It's a kind of a unique look for us, not our traditional scarf, but it's pretty cool. I was really happy with our friends over at Die Hard who came up with some designs for us and got this one together really, really quickly. It's not in yet. It'll be in a few weeks, but Die Hard has been very, very good to us, John.
Yes, they have, and I am waiting for the picture. So I'm.
Give me a second. Can you fill some time, man? You always talk about being able to fill some time. Fill some time.
Okay. Well, as we, you mentioned what's going to happen in hour number 2. Had some interesting matchups last night in MLS. We'll go over the numbers with Juice Boxes.
I didn't say move on. Just fill some time.
No, I'm filling time. I'm previewing the rest of the show.
Keep going.
You got stuff.
Go.
We got juice boxes that we can talk about when it comes to the matchups this weekend. We've got the run-up tonight coming up at 7 o'clock to get everybody ready for Atlanta United and Nashville. So this is a full day on a bunch of different fronts. And this is and you go down the timeline, and folks are sitting there and going, it's a match day, and there's the excitement. Four-Card Ahmed goes, it's game day eve, y'all, Christmas in August, and it has the gif of Will Ferrell from Elf going through the circular door. And so that seems to be one of the prevailing opinions right now about today, that it's game day eve, and we get to talk about all kinds of stuff.
I need you to do play-by-play on GIFs from now on.
I can do that. That's pretty much the way that I can differentiate one gift from another, but it's the one where Will Ferrell is completely and totally just gleeful going through the circular door in Elf.
Okay, so, time's filled. We're good.
All right. Well, hang on.
Oh, you got more?
Okay. Well, no. Now I get to click on it.
We're not gonna wait for you to do this because you already saw what it looks like. It doesn't look any different than what you already saw.
That's still pretty sweet, though.
Jeez, I mean, yes, it hasn't changed. it's pretty good. Okay. We got lots of stuff to talk about. Let's start before we hop into the games around MLS last night and upcoming with the great article over at The Athletic. Felipe Cardenas got the 1v1 with Frank de Boer. First time we've heard from Frank since he left Atlanta United. He is back in the Netherlands now. And first off, I mean, full credit to Frank for taking the interview and doing it. Full credit to Felipe for hustling and getting it.
Yes.
He's a really nice guy. That's just how I feel, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just misreading it. Maybe because he was always good with me, I'm biased. I don't know. I think he's a really nice guy, and I thought he handled things very, very well in the interview. I think you got some insight into his perspective, what he thought was happening, where he thought things were going, what he was trying to do. I thought Felipe made a great interview with Frank and put it together to get that out. One thing that's come out of this that I think it wasn't brought up in the article at all, but this idea about Darlington Nagbe, this has become a huge conversation in the last, since the interview came out. Because Frank said he'd never want to let Darlington Nagbe go, and he's said that before. This is not new. Darlington Nagbe's a great player. We all know this. But if you go back to Doug Robertson's reporting back in November in the AJC before the trade happened with Columbus, Atlanta United made an offer again to Darlington Nagbe in the summer, and it was turned down. Darlington was I wasn't involved in the conversation, so I couldn't tell you, but we know last year in preseason there was an issue where he was not part of the first team group for a while. Those things are facts. Jason Davis of SiriusXM FC has said that money wasn't the issue. I think there's a narrative now coming that it was a decision that they decided not to bring him back, even leaving the financial consideration out of it. Just they decided not to keep him. That's not true. That's not what happened. He had another year under his contract. You could have kept him. You could have then let him walk on a free. And if you go back and read Doug's article from November, he says that one of the things he was hearing was that if that happened, Darlington Nagbe would play out his contract and go to one of the Ohio teams. Period. So you can't let a player walk for free. We've had this conversation for years. It is what it is. Is it what you would like? No. You traded a lot of assets to go get Darlington Nagbe. You didn't want to have him leave. Things changed. He wanted to be closer to home. Did money factor into it? We don't know what the contract is that he's got in Columbus yet. So we don't know. We don't know what was offered here, and we'll never know that. But it was pretty clear that he wanted to go. You had to get something for him. There were efforts made to keep him. It is what it is. Like, I don't know what else you can do with that. But I think it's now becoming a conversation that wasn't the conversation when it happened. And that's what's confusing to me. The conversation is now that the front office just either traded him away because they wanted to, or they just didn't want to keep him. And those things are not true. There were offers made, and it's just the changing of that narrative makes no sense to me. And I don't know why we're going through this kind of stuff again. It's really strange. It was a great goal last night from him, too.
Yes.
Absolutely great goal. It's not something we see very often from Darlington Nagbe. That's not a knock either. It's just that's not his game. He's a linking player. He does a great job in linking the team. That's it. Would you have paid designated player money for Darlington Nagbe? I don't even know if that was an opportunity to do that anyway. You didn't have a spot, first off, so you couldn't do that. Would you? I don't know of a team in the league who would. And that's not a knock. Again, it's position. It's where they play. It's what they bring to the team. It's impact. Those designated player spots are very hard to come by. I don't even think that was the issue, though. I think the issue is location. Offers were made. It just, I don't know. Jason Nix says DP money for him. I don't think there's been a designated player number 8 in MLS history. If you had unlimited designated player spots, 100%. No question. No question at all. But it's not just he's a good player, let's pay him like a good player. Position scarcity becomes an issue here. Different positions are under different situations. It's one thing I've always said about goalkeepers. I think if you're putting a designated player spot on a goalkeeper, you're wasting a spot. Yeah. Because you have goalkeepers that you can go get that maybe are a little bit less than that goalkeeper that you might want to get that is a designated player, but you're then taking a designated player spot away and you only got 3 to work with. It's not a straight-up conversation. Is Gregush a DP? Oh, I'd have to go back and look. He might be. Okay, so that blows my argument out of the water, but you're also saying Minnesota's a club like Atlanta. Minnesota's not going to spend like Ezequiel Barco and Pity Martinez and Joseph Martinez and Miguel Almiron before that. They're not going to spend that kind of money. That also changes the narrative. The thing is, we're talking about money again, and I don't think that was the issue. And I'm just a little surprised that it's now turned again, when this was not the conversation when he left. It was not the conversation when he was traded. The conversation was he wanted to go home. Why has that changed 8 months later? I don't know. I don't know. It feels like now we're trying to get down to another thing to be angry about, because the coach that people wanted to see go is now gone. Yeah. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But again, I'm probably kind of biased. So anyway, we'll see what happens. That narrative has been an interesting one to follow, and I don't understand it because the reporting at the time did not go down the road that it is now being talked about in. Let's talk about Darlington Nagbe for a minute. Let's talk about Columbus. They played Chicago last night, and it was a big win for the Crew, 3-0. Chicago is about what Chicago has been. This has been a tough year for new managers or managers dealing with a lot of change. I think we're seeing those kinds of teams really struggle because you're not getting any continuity. You're not building anything. It's stop-start, it's stop-start, it's stop-start. Rafael Vicky needs time. He needs time to build a team. He's got a lot of new talent that he's got to incorporate. They're not very good right now, and they lost their goalkeeper, Kenneth Cronholm, for the rest of the year. That hurts too. Chicago is not a good team at the moment. I expected more from them in a normal season. It's hard to be upset about this in this kind of season. So they're looking to next year at this point. I think they've got to build their team for next year. Nagbe with an amazing goal. Columbus was in control of that game pretty much the whole way. I was keeping an eye on all the games, and that was the one that was probably the lowest on my priority list because of the matchup. I didn't think it would be the best game. Derek Etienne got a goal in the 20th, and Columbus just wore Chicago down 2 goals in the last 10 with Nagbe with a bomb and Jossie Zardes, who assisted on Nagbe's goal as well. About what you would expect going into it.
Yeah, that one was, much like you, that one was number 3 on my list. I mean, and I've had about 38 different games going back and forth last night, so it was definitely a workout.
What other games were you watching? There were only 3 in MLS.
I'm that guy that had the CPL game from Prince Edward Island on the big screen last night.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Just because it was different, and I wanted to see their virtual stadium, and I wanted to see what that looked like and the TV production aspect of it. So it was kind of like what we see with Liga MX, but they've virtualed the entire stadium grid. So it was interesting to see things from a TV perspective.
Yeah, I didn't get into that one. I'll keep an eye on that when we see other games and it's not conflicting. But yeah, that one's kind of low in the priority list for me. That's on FS2 right now, John?
Yeah, FS2 has come to an agreement with the Canadian Premier League for the Island games. So I think every game is going to be on FS2, but at the very least, the ones in late afternoon access and prime time are the ones that are being shown right now.
Okay, question real quick, following up on the Nagbe conversation and just kind of following up on the Chicago conversation as well. Yeah. Mrs. Claus, Martha, is hanging out, and right now it's the Twitch pitch. I think it's going to be the Twitch pitch. I know there's a couple people who are lobbying for something else, but the consensus has been the Twitch pitch. Okay. Y'all better make a good case in these final hour and 45 minutes because I think that's where we're headed. Anyway. Yeah. Martha says, I'm curious, as the league gets bigger and more teams are scouting younger, affordable upstarts, will the league, all caps, need to expand and increase salary cap to accommodate the kind of recruiting and staffing of players MLS will need to continue to improve/advance the overall talent of the league? Yep. And that's been kind of how this has gone over the years. I mean, when David Beckham became a realistic possibility to join the league, they changed a rule to make it to where you could have David Beckham in the league. Yeah. And they already had a few guys who were over the maximum salary number, but they were kind of like, hush, hush, yeah, we know. Yes, we're paying them more, but we need them in the league. It's not as big of a deal. David Beckham, you can't do that. You can't do anything hush, hush for David Beckham. So you have to change the rule and create the designated player rule, which was called the Beckham rule for a long time. So then you've added more designated players. You added TAM, which I think was in a large way to get this kind of idea in, getting that next tier of player in. Now you folded TAM, normal TAM anyway, into the salary cap. You've thrown the GAM into the cap. The cap is bigger. That part's good. You can spend it a little more freely. You're going to have to increase the cap as you go. And I think that next step, and it's a hard one right now because of the losses you're looking at in 2020, but that next step is going to be, okay, now MLS can start to get more players from South America that would have gone to Argentina, would have gone to Brazil. Instead, they're going to come here from an Ecuador, from a Paraguay, from a Bolivia. They're their step before going to potentially a bigger club if they fully develop has generally been Argentina or Brazil. MLS has started to get a few of those. What MLS started to get first was the guys who didn't get that immediate step from Argentina to Europe. They came here first. Miguel Almiron, a prime example. You're going to see Miguel Almiron go from Cerro Porteño in Paraguay instead of going to Lanús in Argentina. You're going to see him come to an MLS club soon. You're going to have to create the mechanisms to do that. This U22 initiative could be that step on that side, but along the way with that, you're going to have to increase the cap. And something I've lobbied for a long time, in the NBA, you have the Bird rules. It was created for Larry Bird, where you could go above your cap to re-sign a player. Now, they've added different restrictions to it, but essentially that's the premise, is you have a player that you've developed, you have a player that's been with you for a certain period of time, you can spend more than the maximum cap number to keep that player. And I think now you're limited to how many players you can do that with. MLS needs something like that for a couple of reasons. For those guys that we just talked about, let's say, I'm trying to think of a prime example of somebody. Let's say Miguel Almiron didn't knock it out of the park when he got here. Let's say he was really good, but that offer didn't come in Europe. And it was, all right, do we want to see him go to a lesser team in Europe because he wants to go now and make a little more money? Or do we want to have an ability to pay him more and keep him here while he's still chasing that? The young players that come through your academy that you want to keep instead of selling on to Europe. You want to make it worth their while to stay. Be able to pay them more. So that's the rule that I think is next along these lines. But yeah, you're going to have to spend more because you're able to recruit higher level talent. And you want to keep some of that higher level talent too. It can't all be selling. It's a balance. But yeah, you're just going to have to keep increasing spending. I don't see any other way you can keep the league growing and getting better and better every year without increasing the spending.
Now, the NBA has the Bird rule, the mid-level exception, the veterans exception.
No, don't make people's eyes roll back in their heads. I'm just talking about the Bird rule, period.
Okay.
The cap's already convoluted enough right now. Just take the Larry Bird rule concept of, I like this player. He's been in my club for whatever the minimum number of time is. If it's 2 years, if it's 3 years, you want to make it longer, fine. And I want to keep them when their contract is up, but I don't have cap space.
Yeah.
Can I re-sign them to a bigger deal? Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, Julian Gressel are guys who would have fit into this conversation. You would have been able to say, I know I'm limited by this much cap, but I want to keep these guys. They've been with me for 3 years. And I want to pay them more to keep them because their contracts are coming up. You should be able to do that. And if you have to pay a luxury tax, if money goes into a pot that's distributed among the other teams, however you want to do it to increase the parity, because you're trying to have a league with parity, okay. But let's figure that out. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay, because the NBA has a couple of those, and that's why I wanted to ask about each one of those individually in addition to the Bird rule.
I don't want to get into all the rest of it. I don't even know all the rest of it. And we only have 2 hours, John.
Okay.
That's madness. And I don't know if you know all those different things and how they set up and all that.
Well, the veterans exception, it would be signing a veteran for something other than the league minimum.
That stuff, no. That's a whole different conversation. That's getting super technical. You've already got stuff like that baked into your cap and your rules. That's not the issue. The issue is keeping players and spending above. It's not about, okay, well, I can sign this guy to more than this and he's going to count as this. Nah, I could care less. It is, I want to keep this player. I need to pay them more than the cap to keep them. Do we want to see them walk, or do we want to see a team have the ability to keep them? And they're going to have to pay a penalty or whatever, like tax that gets spread out.
Tax or
whatever. You can figure that out. This is not breaking news, but it gets this. I did not see this number before, and it's pretty amazing. Chris Ashley shares it in the Twitch pitch, which is what it is for now. Topic for conversation. Greenville Triumph had 20,000 households tune into last weekend's match on the local CW station. My brain melted at that number. Well, try to reconstitute your brain, Chris, first off, and that number is pretty ridiculous. Yes. That's awesome. I don't know the Greenville TV market that well and what those numbers, how that compares, but that's a pretty high number, period, for a local broadcast. And I would assume in Greenville it's even bigger in terms of the share.
Yeah, if my math is right, and I'm going to probably end up doing some math at some point, I think that adds up to about a 10 share.
Okay. I mean, share is one thing, but just the number of households, that's a lot of people in Greenville as a percentage of people in Greenville watching TV who are watching this game. And that's a pretty big deal.
And because of that, you are going to see 6 more broadcasts of Greenville Triumph games on the CW there in the upstate.
Look, that's the reality. When networks put money out to do things and take chances and give up time to do it, when people respond, they're going to do more, for sure. So good on people watching, because that got you to this with more games on TV, which is very cool. One more thing before we hop back into the MLS results from last night. If you did not know, Abby reminded us today at the Atlanta United team store from 11:30 to 1:30, they are giving away a free flag. It's a giveaway, I believe, with a purchase. And there is social distancing in the store and wear a mask. And I think I covered all that. They have some masks. I don't know if they have the masks that I got at the team store.
I was going to say, where'd you get that?
I got a bunch of masks. I have a bunch of them. I got a pack of 3 from Fanatics that were the masks with the straps, 2 straps on the back of the head. That's the most comfortable I've found for me and my giant cranium. So I don't like the ear loops at all. I hate the ear loops. They're not the most comfortable. I have one with ear loops that's comfortable. The 2 straps on the back of the head are the best. And I got a pack of 3. Like, one's a red one. I think I got them right here. I don't know if they have these in the team store. Got the black one with the logos. I got a white version of that one, and I got the red one with just the big logo. I think it's the generic MLS pack. But they're super comfortable. Those are my favorites. So if they have them at the team store, they're highly recommended. And you get a flag with it. So there you go. Curbside pickup is available, too. I did not know that, Jason Nix. Thank you. Okay. Last night, other games. The scoreboard from last night included a scoreless draw, New England and Philadelphia. New England was pretty good. New England was the better team from what I saw. And again, I'm watching multiple games. But they were the team that was in the driver's seat of that one, which surprised me. Philadelphia kind of struggled to get going. They did have the play at the end. Neither team could find a goal. Scoreless draw was about the right result. The other game was a very strange one. Red Bulls and NYC. What a bizarre goal for Red Bulls. Sean Johnson with just a horrible blunder. And I still think he kept it out because of the pictures we saw where they isolated it. And I'd like to see the whole thing in the slow motion that we need.
Yeah.
I'd like to see all of it because it looks like he pushes the ball back up, and I can't tell how far it was back to begin with. But where they isolated it, and the Red Bulls posted this picture, which was a bad deal. I think they deleted it. They posted the picture that showed the ball was still in the line.
Yeah.
The whole ball has to be behind the goal. And that includes the part that's not on the ground. You know, the ball is round, and the picture they showed, part of the ball was hanging over the line, which would mean it's not a goal. They looked at it, and they looked at it pretty long. But this is the thing, Jason, and this is where I was with it. The overhang has to be accounted for. I think the green grass is maybe what did it too, but the overhang is part of the ball. Mm-hmm. And that was what was hard to tell. They did not have it wasn't an ESPN broadcast, so they did not have the target goalpost cam, which they needed on something like this, which would help you a ton, or goal line technology, as plenty of people have said. Beyond Sean Johnson giving this opportunity, it's a questionable goal. It's enough for the Red Bulls, and they win. And New York City is, 1-5 on the season. Ronnie Dyla's struggling a little bit, and they brought everybody back from last year. They changed the manager because Domain Tarrant wanted to leave. He wasn't happy with the situation in New York. Ronnie Dyla comes in, and it's the same group, and it's not good.
Nope. Bartimus Prime, he says he thinks that Joey Logan and I agree Sean Johnson kept the ball out, but why does MLS not have goal line technology?
Money. They put the money into VAR and all the cameras needed for that and the setup needed for that. And they thought that that would give them enough of the coverage of these types of situations. And a lot of times it does. It didn't in this one. Maybe some of it's down to the camera angles. Maybe some of it's down to the cameras available. And I don't know if this was a typical broadcast in terms of cameras. As Jason Nick says, goal line technology doesn't always work, which is accurate too. It's technology. Yes. It's not perfect.
That's Sheffield United.
Yeah, that's accurate. I would have liked to have had a better look at it. I think they could have maybe taken another minute to get this call right, or at least make us feel better about it. It's a really close one. It's a really, really close one. I do think that even beyond goal line technology, the solution is to have the goalpost cam sponsored by whoever for whatever broadcast in every stadium. Because that would at least give you, okay, you don't have the goal line technology to buzz the guy, but you're going to have that angle on the line that you need to see these kinds of things.
Nathan Pugh is in this morning, and his new name ID on Twitter this morning is Skyline Chili is gross.
Fair enough.
And he says, that Nagby goal cool as you like. Also seeing NYCFC rooted to the bottom feels like some sort of cosmic footy justice for that stupid Yankee Stadium pitch.
Well, they're not playing there right now, so I guess that doesn't really apply. And they need to build a stadium. So if you can find the land and the money for them in New York City, yeah, that's where they're at. Looks like things are still in motion but have slowed down, obviously, because of the pandemic. So we will see. Adam from 816 is calling for the Ring doorbell goalpost cam, which I actually really like.
Yeah.
That would work. That's all you need. That's a great sponsorship opportunity, too. Done.
You know that Jamie and Shaq would jump on that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, done. All right, MLS, there you go. We've solved your problem. They're pretty cheap. You can probably get a good discount. I didn't know Shaq was a sponsor of the Ring doorbell.
He's a part owner.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get Shaq involved and get him in the commercial. I'm in. Put him in a goalkeeper outfit and let's see how it works.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I'm in. Let's do this. All right. Adam from 816 has solved MLS's problems with this. You don't need goal line technology. You need the Ring doorbell cam. That's it. All right. Let's look at the games for tonight in MLS. Again, we've got Mike Conti joining at 10 o'clock. We've got Doug Robertson joining at 10:30. We'll get deep into Atlanta, Nashville then. We've also got the run-up tonight at 7 o'clock with Kelly Francis and John previewing Atlanta, Nashville in more detail. And we'll have the Power Hour tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock previewing that game probably in even more detail. So we're going to have a lot of Atlanta, Nashville talk. Let's get everything else laid out for the rest of the campaign this weekend. Tonight you have 4 games, 2 at 7:30, 2 at 8. The 7:30s, Cincinnati and D.C. is a toss-up, it looks like, according to the BetMGM folks. And Minnesota hosting Sporting Kansas City. Sporting is a slight favorite in that one. What jumps out at you about these two matches, John?
Well, first and foremost, let me give you our friends at Odds Portal with their composites.
How different is it?
The second one's different.
Okay.
FC Cincinnati plus 136. DC United is at plus 195.
195? Wow, okay, that is pretty different. BetMGM's got some weird numbers here then. All right, we'll go by your composites. Forget these numbers.
And then Honors even after 90 minutes is a plus 244.
What was the Cincinnati number?
Plus 136.
So they're the big favorite over DC. What's the draw?
Plus 244.
Draw, I think, is ugly. I think it's horrendous, and I think you might want to you might want to bang your head against the wall by the end of it.
Yep. Now, the other one.
Minnesota hosting Sporting Kansas City. What you got?
Minnesota United in the aggregate, plus 152. Sporting, plus 166.
Okay, so they're reversed from BetMGM. Iko Para is out. Tyler Miller is out. So there's a big question. Potentially, yes. Slow down. I don't think that's a guarantee that it's Ranjit Singh. I don't think that's a guarantee. I think he could be the goalkeeper. I don't think they know.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for Minnesota with now Opara out and your goalkeeper Tyler Miller out, and Ja'Cory Hayes is questionable. For Kansas City, you're missing Felipe Gutierrez. He is, I believe, out for the whole year or maybe comes back at the very end. You've been missing him for a while. Other than that, you're at pretty much full strength. Ricky Ricardo saying he's really good, feeling really good about Alan Pulido up top with that defensive issue for Minnesota. I'm with Ricky Ricardo on this. Mm-hmm. I feel like Kansas City can go in and take care of this. You do have to be careful defensively if you're Kansas City. And Minnesota up front is very dangerous with Kevin Molino back into this, Ethan Finley, Robin Lod, Amaria. That's a great front four. And it's a good holding, too, with Alonso and Gregish. Backline and goalkeeper, you got big questions. I feel like there's a lot of goals in it, and it's like a 3-2 Kansas City win.
Yeah, I got to go with Kansas City there as well. So that plus 166, considering they are the slight underdog, I would take that one as well. So I guess that means, since I've said that, that means Minnesota's going to shut them out. So there you go.
Well, that's not good. 8 o'clock games tonight. Houston and Dallas in Houston, and Toronto hosting Vancouver. Houston and Dallas, I would say it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
I would think that it's a toss-up. Dallas did not look good against Nashville. They could not break Nashville down. And Houston is just not a great team yet. This is another one like New York City and Chicago, in that you have some new element, whether it's a new manager like New York City and it just hasn't been able to mesh. Whether it's Chicago and you got a new manager and a lot of new faces. Houston, you have a new manager in Tab Ramos. The stop-start nature is really hurting those kinds of guys. So Houston, I've always liked their talent. I've never felt like they've been able to get the most out of it. And Tab is a guy that I think can do that. But you got to get some continuity with this. I think they'll be better by the end of the 6-game stretch than they are now. But it might be a little shaky here. I'm thinking draw with Houston and Dallas.
Houston plus 134. FC Dallas plus 195. Draw plus 247.
Yeah, I'm going draw on that one. And Toronto, big favorite over Vancouver. Vancouver stayed in the eastern part of Canada after coming over for the game earlier this week. Do they play Montreal after this in Montreal? So they're on like the long road trip to get this done.
Yeah.
That's going to hurt them. Toronto handled them pretty easily last time around. I don't really see that changing. Maybe not quite as bad. Maybe a 2-0. But yeah, I don't see Vancouver really threatening a whole lot here.
All right, so what do you think the numbers are in the composite?
Plus 1,000 for Vancouver.
Close, plus 844.
Okay.
And the draw plus 476, Toronto is a minus 357.
Yeah, Toronto. Don't touch it. There's no value in that.
No.
The early game tomorrow, 6 o'clock on Big Fox. You can watch the first hour of it. LAFC and the LA Galaxy. LAFC is a massive favorite here. Mm-hmm. The Galaxy will be missing Chicharito. LAFC is expected to have Carlos Vela back. 6 goals last time. I don't know if you get 6 here, because I would think the Galaxy would drive buses into the stadium and park them in front of the goal and maybe try to move the goal. But I don't think the Galaxy find a way to win this, not without Chicharito and not without improved defending. So 3-1.
Yeah, and I've gone LAFC heavy up top in my fantasy team, as we mentioned yesterday. LAFC in the composite minus 244. The Galaxy plus 542, and your draws at plus 429.
Miami, Orlando, 8 o'clock. I'm really intrigued by this one. I'll watch the second half of it while we're doing the post-game show. It'll be on, keeping an eye on it. Miami now has Leandro Gonzalez-Perez. They will not have Blaise Matuidi yet. He's coming. They might have a number 9 at some point. Maybe, possibly. We don't know if he's coming. Orlando was really good getting to the final. I want to see, and this is maybe my biggest question of the weekend, is I want to see if Orlando has a hangover from getting to the final and losing. I want to see if there's a letdown period for Orlando because they were really good in the tournament and they came up short in the final. Is that going to hurt them in the not the long run, but in the short run? We'll see. Orlando won the last time these two teams played, 2-1. It was a pretty tight game. 2-1 was about what it felt like. This one is going to be in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Orlando's bussing down, so it's a little bit more involved than a hour flight or something and then getting off a plane and going. You're going to be in a bus for 3 hours. Does that affect Orlando? Possibly. I'm thinking draw because I do think that there is a letdown period for Orlando. I think Miami is very hyped up. LGP will help them. They'll be better. I think it's a draw. I think it's a 2-2 draw.
Enter Miami plus 134 in the composite. Orlando plus 195 in the composite.
I'm going to bring that down to a 1-1 draw. I think the goals are going to be a little bit harder to come from. Chris Ashley says, and this maybe is a little bit of a preview for the Greenville Triumph Weekly, talking about Ricky Lopez-Espin, who has been doing really well for Fort Lauderdale, Miami's USL League One team. And Chris asked, what are the chances Miami gives him a look since they need a number 9? I think they're going to spend on a 9. I think they're going to go get a big-name 9. They could if they get really desperate, but I don't know if he's better than what's there in like a Juan Agudelo, et cetera, et cetera. I think they'd give Julian Carranza those minutes before they turn him over to Lopez-Espin and ride with a young player that they think can turn into something. I just don't think he gets into that mix. But he's available. If you have an injury, that could change everything. If you have an injury and you can't find the player you want out in the market, that could change it. But the way they're currently constructed, there's other guys who'll get those minutes ahead of Ricky Lopez-Espin. Okay.
Yeah, the Chris Ashley conversation comes out at noon Eastern on the network, and Ricky Lopez-Espin does come up as a topic of conversation.
That's why I just said that, and that's what Chris said. What?
I know. Just wanted to let everybody know that the conversation
we already
comes
covered
out
that.
It's out at noon.
Okay. Colorado hosting RSL, 9 o'clock tomorrow night. Colorado is a fairly big favorite from looking at it at MGM, which is maybe a little surprising. I don't think there's many goals in this one, period, because neither team was all that good in the MLS's back tournament. Neither team was all that good to start with in the season. It's kind of... Colorado gave up a lot of goals down in Orlando, and that's a problem. I don't really like either one of these teams in this one. What are the numbers?
Colorado plus 114 to win. RSL plus 237, and the draw's at plus 249.
Just give me a weird juice box on RSL just because that's a number and a toss-up game that's kind of appealing. I think it's a 1-0 game either way, honestly. I don't think there's a whole lot in that one. Late night on Sunday. This is the last one before we are back with you on Monday. Portland and Seattle, FS1, 10 o'clock. Cascadia behind closed doors. Portland, will they be riding high? Will they have a little bit of a hangover? Seattle, are they going to be angry? Are we going to start to see second half of the MLS season Seattle, or is it still too early for that? I'm going Portland. I really believe in what Portland is this year. I think Portland's an MLS Cup contender. I think they're a better team than Seattle.
Portland plus 123 to win. Seattle plus 221, and your draw's at plus 237.
Why do you say Seattle plus 221 like that? You say that like you're surprised.
It's just
no. You said it like you're surprised. I'm asking for you. Is that a surprising number for you?
I would have thought it would have been a little closer, not on the north end of 200.
I just didn't see enough from Seattle in the tournament, and I saw a lot from Portland. I feel like there is that disparity. Now, maybe that changes. Maybe that changes during the season. But right now, yeah, I think that's accurate. You have a team that's coming off of a tournament win against a team that, what did Seattle make you feel in the tournament that would give you a better number than that?
I'm thinking Cascadia and Cascadia alone. I went to column 5 and went intangibles.
Yeah, but I mean, there's nothing to go on that. That's just pulling things out to say it could be even. I think without the fans in the building, it's going to have, less of a Cascadia feel. I think it's more about the individual talent. So, and I think Sebastian Blanco's feeling it right now, and he's going to carry the Timbers for a little while. Valeri's turned into the sidekick a little bit more, and Blanco's turned into the main guy a little bit more, and I think that suits where the Timbers are at the moment. And Abobasi is very, very good up top at the moment. So, and that's what's interesting about Portland is you brought in Nishgoda, you brought in Felipe Mora, you brought in people to take the job, and Abobasi stepped up to say, I ain't giving this up. That's what you want to see from young, talented players. That's a really good situation. And I think Abobasi has the job, and the other guys are going to have to fight for coming off the bench.
So then what you're telling me is I need to swap out Damir Kreilach for Blanco on my fantasy team.
That's two different teams. That's two different games. But I already told you about Blanco yesterday. You weren't listening. He's in my team. I was raving about Blanco yesterday.
I know.
So that's on you. Want to know what you guys think about the upcoming weekend. Jigga Ray's Portland 2-0. Ricky Ricardo, Portland 3-1. Sean Vergara, Portland 3-0. A lot of hatred for Seattle in the Twitch pitch. Not necessarily against that at all. Just saying, man, that's rough. Ricky goes 4-1 LAFC. It's going to be a one-sided goal fest.
I could see it.
Interesting. What else is jumping out at you this morning, John? What's on the Twitters?
Joey Logan, he says, not sure why my boy Sean didn't whack that thing out of there instead of trying to save it, but I digress. In real time, the ball may cross the line, but from the photo, Sean keeps it out. But yes, where are the goalpost cams we saw in the hashtag MLS's back tourney? Is that Fox only?
ESPN does it. Fox might do it. That tournament, it would have been all the ESPN setup, so Fox would have used it because it would have been available to them. MLS needs to install it with the sponsorship. Get Shaq involved. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Other scores coming in on the Twitch pitch. Atlanta Phoenix going out on a limb. 3-2 LA Galaxy over LAFC.
Wow.
People are yelling about that. Atlanta Phoenix also says Orlando wins 2-0 in Miami. I wouldn't be blown away by that. I wouldn't. I'm thinking draw, but I wouldn't be blown away by that one. Scoreless, Denver and RSL. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I could absolutely see that. I just don't know how to feel about those teams yet. Abby's going Cincinnati over DC. Ricky's going Orlando 2-1. Abby's going draw in Miami, Orlando. Shiva asks, do you think LAFC will start Vela? I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think if he can give you more than 45, he's going to start. That whole thing with the 5 subs now, it changes that conversation a little bit. Like, I'm generally reluctant to start guys who can't go more than 45. I'd rather have them come off the bench and be fresher for the period of time they're on the field. But now with 5 subs, if Vela can give you 45, he can get you to halftime. And you got to think about the 5 more games coming up in a short period of time. So you've got to manage his minutes a little bit. If he can give you 45 here, I think you take it. I think you try to get up on him early and use him to do that, and then give him the second half off. So if he can get you 45, you take it. Abby with an Atlanta United lineup question. We'll get to that. Save those for the second hour. We'll get deeper into Atlanta and Nashville in hour number 2. Ricky's wanting Miami to get a draw or a win, though, when you start looking at the standings. And that, it's a little early to start scoreboard watching totally, but yeah, I mean, if you're in the Eastern Conference, you want underdogs to win or you want draws because you want to start climbing up that ladder. I think the East, total crapshoot. Chicago's the one that I think will be further back because they're starting from a further back position just in terms of the level, and I think they're going to struggle to get to their top level this season. Beyond that, I mean, Miami, a lot of it is what Matuidi brings to them, and if they go get a number 9, the rest of it is pretty much a crapshoot. NYC is a good team that's not doing well. The Red Bulls are doing about what you would think. Philadelphia, Columbus are very good. The East feels like an absolute, what is your word?
Gaggle?
Yes. I will take the teams out of the gaggle. I will take Chicago out of the gaggle. I will take DC out of the gaggle. I've not been impressed with them.
You're going to leave Miami in the gaggle for the time being?
They're at the top of the outside of the gaggle group because I think Matuidi will help them, but I still think they need a number 9 more than anything. I mean, this is. I want to make this clear. You're jumbling things. Listen to me. DC and Chicago are not as good as the rest of the conference. Period. Nashville's a better team than both of those.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago has a lot to do, and it's just hard to do at the moment because of the stop-start nature of it. We'll see if they make some progress, but right now they're not good enough. DC, I think, has been bad this season. They're not good enough. Put those two at the bottom. Miami has potential, but right now they're not good enough. Cincinnati's not good enough, but they're finding ways to get results because they know they're not good enough, and they're playing in a way that tries to scrape out points. Then, I mean, those are the 4 that if I had to pick it today as to who misses the playoffs, it'd be those 4. If it is the 10 teams going in that we have heard. Those would be my 4 that are out. But that could change. I mean, Montreal's not that great. New England has been up and down and not that great. Atlanta's got work to do. Nashville's on an edge, too. I mean, they've got to find some goals here at some point. So, and then the Red Bulls, I mean, the Red Bulls have got a cushion with the wins they have, but I don't think they're like a great team. So, the East, outside of a couple of teams, it really feels like a toss-up with a lot of different teams.
Yep, I completely agree with you there. What about the West?
I mean, looking at the West right now, you've got Sporting, you've got Minnesota, you've got Portland, you've got LAFC as the top 4. That feels pretty accurate. Seattle, San Jose, Colorado are the next 3. Colorado I worry about, but Seattle does feel like they're right there with that top group or just outside of it. We'll see if they do their usual thing and they get better as the season goes on. Vancouver I have no faith in. RSL, I still want to see it because they lost a lot of their attacking talent from last year and they haven't really replaced it. Dallas has been a disappointment. I thought they would take a step forward. Houston is another one of these caught in the stop-start nature of it. They haven't been able to improve like I think they can. The Galaxy have been horrendous defensively. Is that going to change? It should. They've got enough firepower that you would think they're going to find some wins and get into one of those playoff spots, but I don't know. Right now, if it is 8 teams who go and 4 teams who miss out in the West, I think your teams missing out are Vancouver. Mm-hmm. I think it's RSL. I think it's Houston. And I think it is either Dallas or Colorado. I do think the Galaxy will find a way in. I just think they can outscore teams at some point. So when they play some of these lesser teams.
Okay. Yeah, because that for me right now with the Galaxy, that would be the only way that they would be climbing the ladder is if they turn things into Nintendo and win a lot of 4-3s. But you win 4-3, you still get 3 points out of the deal. So you still outscore folks. You make your way up the ladder. But yeah, for me, Vancouver, I don't see it. Dallas has been a disappointment for me. RSL, Colorado, you're like, okay. So I think that by, I guess, that process of elimination, I would have interest in the Galaxy winning a lot of shootouts and climbing the ladder as opposed to those other teams that haven't been able to score.
All right, quick bounce around the world before Mike Conti joins us at 10 o'clock. Manchester United's got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Maguire has been detained for questioning on the Greek island of Mykonos. Mykonos for allegedly being involved in a brawl, and police officers were assaulted in said brawl. 2 groups of tourists were fighting, and police officers were assaulted, and 2 other Britons were also detained. The quote from a police official, the soccer player was verbally abusive to an officer and then hit him. The 3 were resisting when brought to the Mykonos police station. Manchester United says they are aware of it and they are investigating it. Contact has been made with Harry, and he is fully cooperating with the Greek authorities. No further comment.
Uh-huh.
Why do you say it like that? What's that supposed to mean?
And good morning, Manchester United front office.
Your sides are funny sometimes. You act like Manchester United should say something else. They can't say anything.
No, it's like they're not. You're not going to have Ed sit there and go, "Harry Maguire, you shouldn't have done that." But just it's like, nothing like getting that phone call. You're the GM or you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and you get that phone call in the middle of the night. Harry Maguire is being detained in Greece because he got into an alleged brawl and he might have touched some cops.
I wouldn't have even said the statement that they did. I would have been like, phone not answering it right now.
Yeah.
We're going to find out more before we say anything.
Yeah.
Oy. Reports out of Barcelona, and it started to hit later yesterday after Lionel Messi held up his vacation to meet with Ronald Koeman, and reportedly Messi has said something along the lines of he sees himself more out of the group than in the group. Reports are that he still wants to leave Barcelona. All 4 sports newspapers in Spain dedicated their front covers to this. This will be the soap opera of the summer. Mm-hmm. He doesn't see his future clearly, according to Mundo Deportivo. The problem is he has a $827 million release clause?
Wow.
That's bonkers. You can sell him outside of the release clause, but he's making a crazy amount of money in salary, so there's 1 or 2 clubs who could actually afford it unless Inter can go raise money somewhere, because Inter's one that's been mentioned, but PSG would do it, Manchester City would do it.
Yeah.
But they'd have to find some way to get him from Barcelona in terms of a transfer fee because he has another year on his contract. Would Barcelona allow him to walk on a free because of what he's given the club? They probably should. It would be a goodwill gesture. It would be something that would probably help them keep a relationship with him when he retires, because you'd like to have that. And you'd also get that huge salary off your books, which is a major issue for Barcelona. 37 games away from matching Xavi Hernandez as the all-time appearance maker for Barcelona. You think he gets it? You think he plays 37 more times for Barcelona?
That would be what? An entire season? That'd be one more season?
That's everything. I mean, that's cups, that's European competition. That's
I think he gets the 37, yeah.
I do too. I don't think he goes anywhere. I think he plays one more year there. I just don't think the options are that great for him to go, and it's tough. Abby, Barcelona said he's leaving. Barcelona's going to say a lot of things right now. This will be a major soap opera. Mm-hmm. Barca will have to make a decision on if they feel like they can get better with him there or they have to move him on to improve. You could convince me either way, to be honest. The thing that they're not going to get the transfer fee out of him, and I don't think that's even a concern at this point. It is freeing up the payroll figure. Is that going to help you get better? Is giving those minutes to a younger player going to help you get better? And I think also getting his massive personality out of that locker room, is that going to help you get better? Because, I mean, in the past, whenever you were going to make a signing, you had to go talk to Leo. Mm-hmm. You had to go get his blessing, because if he didn't like a move, it wasn't happening. Even when he was young, Zlatan came into Barcelona. Zlatan got bounced out of Barcelona in a year because Lionel didn't like playing with him. So, and that was before he had the power that he has now. That's a problem too. So you might have to just allow him to go and help him go to clear the decks. Yep. But we'll see. I do think he stays one more year. I do. The tricky thing for him is just the 2022 World Cup, because I think that's everything for him at this point. He's done everything else in his career. That tournament is the last opportunity for him to win a World Cup for Argentina. That is the last thing on his resume that has not been checked off. It's not likely right now either for 2022, but you get into a tournament, you never know, and as good as he can be, he can carry you pretty far. He did in 2014 to a final. He's going to put everything into being at top form for that. And I think he stays in Europe until that. But his contract's up at the end of next season. So then he's going to have to take a contract somewhere for a year to stay in Europe. I don't think he comes to MLS before that. I don't think he comes anywhere outside of a major club until after that World Cup. And I don't know. It's going to get hard. The economics are going to get very difficult for this. But that World Cup's going to drive him. I think that's everything for him right now. And everything at the club level is to get him ready for that. That's going to be the goal.
Ricky Ricardo is in this morning with a notification from Jeff Carlisle. Sources are telling Carlisle that Minnesota United and Boca Juniors have agreed to a deal with Emmanuel Reynoso. They've
been talking about this for like a year. Reportedly, it is done, according to the reports out of Argentina as well. I don't know what he necessarily does for them. We'll have to wait and see. A playmaker who would be competing for minutes with Kevin Molino. They signed a young designated player, playmaker, and Thomas Chacon, who they haven't played, and I don't know what's happened with that. So I'm kind of waiting to see on this one. I don't think this is the game changer that some have tried to portray it. My questions for Minnesota are far more on the back end now with Tyler Miller injured and Ike Opara out for an indefinite amount of time. I don't really know what the situation is there. Champions League final, Europa League final. We'll talk about we'll talk about Champions League final in the morning. Europa League final, who you got?
I'm going to go with Inter. I know I'm boring in that regard, but I think that Inter raises the trophy. I think it might take a while.
Why is that boring? That's not boring.
Well, they're the favorite of the
two. I'm asking you, who you think's going to win? Like they're the favorite for a reason, right?
Yeah,
they're the better team.
And Inter right now is a plus 125.
Mm-hmm.
Sevilla plus 238, and your honors even after 90 is a plus 240.
I think it's Inter 3-1. I just think Inter is too strong up top. I think Lautaro and Lukaku are just too good up top. So 3-1. I think they control it pretty well too. So that's where I'm at with it. That's on CBS All Access. 2:55 kick or 3 o'clock kick.
3 o'clock kick.
3 o'clock kick. All your broadcasts. I think it's an hour and a half of pregame. I think they've added pregame for this one for the Europa League final. They've put a lot into the Europa League, which has been cool to see.
Yes.
Champions League final, we'll get into it tomorrow. The questions are going to come down to the tactics, and we'll dig into that in the morning a little bit in our power hour. Does Hansi Flick adapt to how PSG can hurt you, or does he continue driving the steamroller that has been Bayern Munich since he took over? He hasn't played a team like PSG yet, and that could create a little bit of indecision for him, or could create an opportunity for him to change it up. But are they going to be able to change it up after being so good for so long in this way? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm going to have to think about that one a little bit, and we'll talk about it in the morning. Before we get to Mike, why don't you tell us about our good friend Steve Apolinski?
I could do that. Apolinski & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for wrongful death and serious injury matters. If this is a road that you have to go down, unfortunately, a couple different ways that you can catch up with Steve and Apolinski & Associates in general. You can go to the website, aa-legal.com. You hit enter. Pop-up window pops up, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up. And you can have an instant conversation with somebody if you wanted to have a discussion right then and there. 24/7, 365. Go to the pop-up window at aa-legal.com. You can shoot Steve an email by his lonesome at steve@aa-legal.com. Get a free consultation as well by giving him a call at 404-377-9191. Recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend Magazine, one of the top 100 firms in the state of Georgia. Wrongful death and serious injury matters. One place. Apolinski & Associates, LLC. The website, aa-legal.com.
You held that one for a while.
Well, it's because I was waiting for that transition where the notes changed in the stanza, and I wanted to do it with that. So I was trying to time it right.
Okay. You were blowing through that one. I think you got off on your pacing. You're excited because it's game day tomorrow.
It's game day eve, baby.
Yes. Let's see what Mike Conti thinks about it. Fingers crossed we don't lose anybody in the transition. John just got fuzzy for a second, but I think it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you got fuzzy in the return.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
What's going on, guys?
Not much. It's getting ready for a game day. It's weird, huh?
Yeah, it is. I don't know how to describe it, because it doesn't feel like a typical day before a game, does it? I mean, maybe it's just me. It just does not feel the same. But you're right. We're going to have a game tomorrow, so let's talk about it.
How you feeling about this one? I went back and watched Nashville a little bit, and they're an interesting group when you start to dig past Gary Smith's going to be defensive. He's going to put numbers behind the ball. He's going to be secure defensively first and then build the attack. It's not that simple. They're not Cincinnati defensive. They've got more layers to them than that.
They do, but I think it comes down to philosophy and what are they trying to get out of a match in Atlanta on the road. And again, I keep coming back to, I think they're a lot more threatening on counters than Cincinnati.
Yeah.
They get into more dangerous spots than Cincinnati, but I think the philosophy is going to be the same, where they're going to put everyone behind the ball. I anticipate this to be a very low-scoring, frustrating game tomorrow. I really do. Unless there is something that Atlanta United can do to kind of open this match up. And the key to doing that would be to get an early goal or two, in my opinion. But I don't know and do not expect Atlanta United to be able to do anything differently than we saw in matches last year against Cincinnati and Colorado, and maybe another match this year against Cincinnati. I mean, these are all matches they won, but they were kind of grinders. And that's kind of what I'm expecting tomorrow. I do agree that Nashville has players that I think are a little more threatening, like Mukhtar, and Randall Leal is someone who can be very, very threatening. But they don't score a lot. They don't score a lot. They don't give up a lot of goals, but they don't score a lot of goals either. If you look at it statistically, this is a matchup of two teams that are in similar spots, two teams that defend extremely well, two teams that are struggling to score, but the reasons for both being in those categories is completely different.
And so, Mike, I guess this is almost turning into a complex compound question from me, because you're talking about a team in Nashville that had to, because of the weather issues in Dallas, they didn't get home until 7:10 Eastern time the following morning.
Mm-hmm.
And you're dealing with that coming back, and it's a shortened week for them, even though it's, a day or so, having to turn around, travel again, and come down to Atlanta. Do you try to maybe have more speed in your lineup to try to sit there and have them on their heels early on because of the short week they've had?
If they did, though, I don't know what the option would be. And this gets back into the depth conversation a little bit. And I'll defer to you guys. You guys are more expert on this than I. But I think, the guys that Gary Smith have played up to this point are in the lineup because they're his best 11. I don't know if he's got enough. He certainly doesn't have a very experienced lineup through which he can rotate. I'm sure he'd probably like to inject a little more speed, but I just don't know how possible that is. I also think, too, John, you're right. You got back very early Monday morning. Monday was probably a total waste of a day. But, they're training in Nashville today. They aren't going to leave until, as far as we've been told, tomorrow.
Yep.
It's not going to be pleasant, having to bust down the day of the game, but it does buy you a little bit of time. What I'll be curious to see is what types of things can they do from an activation standpoint, either during the trip or immediately upon arrival in Atlanta, because that's a really, really different situation. Are they going to attempt to do film on the bus? Typically if you're you're sitting in a hotel on a Saturday morning, you're going to have some team meals, you're going to do film, you're going to do some activation. Well, these are all things that you're going to have to do in transit now. So that'll be different. But I'm going to defer to you guys. If there is a way for Nashville to inject more speed into their lineup, you guys would know better than I how they could do that.
I think when you look at Nashville, there's a few things that we can write in Sharpie, and of course these will change tomorrow because that's how it always goes. Joe Willis in goal, I'm comfortable there. Daniel Lovitz at left back, comfortable there. He's a vital part of their team, both from a pressure standpoint, from a possession standpoint. Dave Romney and Walker Zimmerman at center back. I feel pretty good about that portion of it. Right back is a question.
I don't think Miller's going to play.
No, I don't think Miller's going to play. I don't think anybody with a groin or adductor injury is going to handle a 4 to 5 hour bus ride very well. I don't think that's going to help him. So not expecting him. I think it's down to Brian Michaelis or Jalil Anibaba, who played in the last match. Those are the two right backs that we saw. The wild card, and this is where I'm starting to convince myself of this because I always like the crazy solution here. Alistair Johnson played right back coming up. He was really impressive in their last game as a rookie in his first start. He played as a right winger. You could drop him to right back because you have Alex Muil in the group now, and you talk about incorporating a little more speed. We've seen what Alex Muil can do, and I think one element that has jumped out to me studying Nashville a little more deeply, they're defensive. But when they get opportunities to step up and press, they will. And Muil's a great fit for that. If you have Muil on one side and Randall Leal on the other, and Mukhtar and Baji up top, that's four that you can kind of turn your team into a 4-2-4 when you're pressing. That's going to be difficult for Atlanta to play out of. I think they could go down that road.
It's a good point. I also wonder, though, if you're talking about Alistair Johnson at right back, a rookie who's never played an MLS match at right back before, and now you're going to have George Bello and Ezequiel Barco running down Atlanta's left channel, theoretically.
Absolutely.
I'm not positive that's going to happen, but that would be my guess. That puts a lot on the young man's plate. It really, really does.
No, it absolutely does. I'm with you completely. It's that's where you're without Eric Miller. If you're Gary Smith, you're dealing with the best possible not first choice option here, because do you want to sit back and defend more with a Jalil Anibaba, or do you want to try to do what you did on the left side where you're a little aggressive at times? It's going to be fascinating. That's the biggest decision he has to make, I think.
Yeah, and that could be, we talk about ways that Atlanta United could unlock this. That could be a vulnerability. That's a big, big loss. We've talked about it, assuming that Eric Miller doesn't play. And I'm with you. I don't know how you can take a guy with an adductor injury and, put him through 10 hours on a bus in one day and expect him to come out of that okay. We've talked at great length about how when Nashville constructed their team, they kind of built the team from the back forward, and they really invested a lot in the spine of that team, which I think is a very pragmatic, smart way of constructing an expansion team. Eric Miller's a big part of that, and when you lose that, and now you've got to make a decision. You mentioned Alex Muil, someone who hasn't even played with Nashville yet. Gary Smith's probably looking at his options right now, and none of them really look great. So this could be the opportunity for Atlanta United, coming down that left channel, running at Nashville's right. Maybe this is the vulnerability that you try to exploit. But then it brings up a question about George Bello, who was kind of in and out in Orlando, and the sample size on George isn't that large, but I think we can all agree it could have gone better for him in Orlando. I also don't know how Glassy rates Bello compared to the way Frank rated Bello. So that's all in play as well. I don't want to just make the assumption that, George Bello's definitely started. Well, first of all, Atlanta United is definitely in a 4-3-3, and Bello's definitely the left back. And, Barco's definitely playing down the left side. I don't know. I have a feeling Glassy's got a trick up his sleeve. I really, really do. Talking to him again yesterday, I mean, he has said repeatedly now that we're going to try to take advantage of the fact that no one has seen us play since I took over. I really have a feeling Glassy's going to spring a surprise on us. I don't know if it's shape. I don't know if it's lineup. I don't know what it is. But I get the feeling that we're going to get a surprise tomorrow.
You mentioned not having seen them play. We got two new guys that are a part of this equation as well. How much are you anticipating seeing Jurgen Damm and Kubo Torres as a part of this mix?
Yeah, I got to be honest. And again, this could be Glassy playing possum. It could be trying to throw everyone off. I know you guys have dealt with Glassy more than I with the twos. I never realized he was as superstitious as maybe he seems to be. I get the impression after listening to him yesterday that Jurgen Damm and Kubo Torres are not quite there yet. And I could be totally wrong. But I would be surprised if they would start based on the things Glassy was saying yesterday, talking about, I don't remember exactly how he put it. It wasn't a deal of like bringing them along slowly or something like that, but
I get the same impression. I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think Doug did too. I think Doug tweeted it as well. I would not put money on either of those guys playing very much or at all tomorrow, which is very interesting because I thought they would be almost rushing to get Kubo Torres in as quickly as possible because you have a real need for him. That really changes everything as far as the shape that we're anticipating they play. And it really changes things in the attack where now you've got to ask the question again, are you going to try again now with Adam John, who couldn't play much against Cincinnati and Orlando because of the first half red card, and then the match got weird because he gave up the early goal against Columbus. Are you going to try again with Adam John as a true 9, or are you going to do something a little bit different at the point of attack? And if I had gotten the impression from what Glassy had said yesterday that Kubo Torres was in the team, then I think it would be a more straightforward answer. I would like to see him, John. I mean, to answer your question, I think we're all anxious to see him. I think it stands to reason they're going to help. They're certainly not going to hurt. I think, especially when you talk about trying to exploit any kind of speed advantage against Nashville, Jurgen Damm would be an enormous key to that. But I just get the feeling they aren't quite ready yet. Same with Eric Lopez, too. I mean, it sounds like Lopez is in the first team now. I don't know how.
Kind of. That was really weird yesterday because I saw, I think, 3 different interpretations of what was said.
Yeah, well, I mean, so Doug asked Glassy the question, how did you get him on the roster? And Glassy said, I don't know. I only take the players they give me in coaching.
He's not dealing with the roster, right?
No, and that is true. I don't think that's Glassy trying to be evasive or throw anyone off. But, there's been no transaction announced. And guys, you got to help me on this. Like, they would have to, well, first of all, the league put the match day rosters up on the media site last night. Eric Lopez is not on the match day roster. Okay, so as far as MLS is concerned, Eric Lopez is not on Atlanta United's first team as of this minute. They have to make a transaction of some kind, though, to put him on the first team roster and announce it, don't they?
That's my
understanding. Whether it be a loan or, some other corresponding move to open up a senior roster spot, like they have to announce a transaction, don't they?
Okay, here's my interpretation of this at this moment. I'm checking to see if the MLS website got a little squirrely, and they did not. Okay. You don't have an international slot period right now. That's
Right.
number one, and he would require one. So you'd have to make a move to open up an international slot. That part, just no way around it. You'd have to either trade for one or you'd have to move somebody from one. So that part would have to happen. He was announced as going on loan to Atlanta United 2. That doesn't mean he's been registered as on loan with Atlanta United 2. So that part could change. He could go on loan to Atlanta United. Okay, that's fine. It hasn't happened yet because he's not registered yet. He's not on the roster yet. My biggest question is if you pull it on loan, you have a supplemental spot open, which you would have to, and we don't know what his salary was, in his previous club. We don't know what the terms are of whatever this deal is going to be where he joins the first team next year. Go ahead.
Does it matter, though, if he's on loan?
Yeah, it does. The salary part still factors in because then it depends on how much is being picked up by who and how that goes down and all of that for the cap hit. I think you might be able to finesse him into a supplemental spot on the first team roster to where he's not taking up a senior spot, which is part of the challenge. But the international slot is non-negotiable. You got to find one, and you've got to either clear one or get one. So it's the whole thing's been very strange. I think it's becoming way too big of a conversation because he's not going to start over Cubo Torres.
No.
And I don't think he's going to start over Adam John. I just don't see it.
He's only played 6 professional matches.
16.
16. Or 16. We got to pump the brakes on this young man.
Yeah.
We got to pump the brakes.
Now, a couple people are chiming in on the Twitch pitch, which I think is going to get the final naming rights, Mike. I think that's what it's going to be.
I like it a lot.
I'm leaning that way. A couple people are chiming in, and I don't disagree with this. Lawrence Wyke is in an international spot. He could be loaned to the twos, who need center back help right now because everybody keeps getting hurt at center back right now.
Yeah.
So that would solve that problem. You loan him back to the twos for the rest of the year. You open up that spot. Everybody wins. So, I mean, it is solvable. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and that's a solution that wouldn't involve a sale or anything like that. And I think right now you're pretty good at center back with the first team. Remember, I mean, Wyke, you had to kind of call him up almost as an emergency because Miles was out. And then, refresh my memory, did George Campbell have a concussion? Someone got hurt in Nashville.
Escobar got hurt in Nashville.
You
brought Wyke up before that, though. There was somebody else who was out that you wanted a little extra cover for, but it didn't. It didn't meet that emergency threshold because you had other field players. You just didn't have center backs, so you had to sign him to a contract, not loan him up. That's one of the things that Frank DeBoer complained about consistently, and I think he's right. In that you have a second team and you can't really use it as a second team because you got to have guys on an MLS deal. Wyke got caught into that, and he was necessary. He played. He was needed, but now he's in a spot where he needs games and he can't get them with the first team. That loan would solve that problem right now.
Right. And speaking of Frank, by the way, I thought Felipe did a really good job yesterday. That was that was a really illuminating talk, and that's something that Frank talked about in that article.
Yeah.
About how clunky it is in, and it goes both ways. I mean, having to sign guys to USL deals and then, getting guys back and forth between your USL team. Really good points. And I hope what he said is kind of heated. He's certainly not the only person to bring up that. I won't call it an objection, but he's not the only person to bring that up. Hopefully we're at kind of a reset point pretty soon with the league where, as we fight our way through the turbulence of what's going on economically around the world, maybe it gives them an opportunity to redraw some of these rules. Because I think a lot of times, like when you start with a set of rules and then you amend rules and add new ones, it almost defeats the purpose a little bit and it gets more confusing. Whereas if you can start from scratch, it makes things a lot more straightforward, a lot more common sense. And I just think we're at a good point right now where on some of these things we can start from scratch.
Got a couple questions in the Twitch pitch for you specifically, Mike. We had a conversation earlier in the week talking about MLS TV ratings and such. I was banging the drum pretty loudly, and I think we've talked about this before, about MLS needs a game of the week and needs a consistent time slot for at least the game of the week. If they can't get it for their games like the NFL has or like the Premier League has with, there's 3-4 different time slots that games could fall in, and that's it. The game of the week thing's critical for me. I don't think the ratings go up nationally until you have that showcase game to drive the story of the league as a whole beyond just people following their local team. What do you think?
Yeah, yes. It's complicated though, because where do you put it?
And good point.
Do you make it a Saturday afternoon game of the week? Great idea, except once you get to September, you're flushed out by college football. Do you make it a Saturday night game of the week? Kind of the same issue. You're going to be fighting against college football during the really critical months of the season.
Friday night?
Put it? Well, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with this, where I think there's a golden opportunity on Fridays, and I think the league has missed this opportunity. I think they've missed it with playoff games not being on Friday. Like, you've got a real opportunity now to own Friday night. The thing is, Friday night has always scared off leagues and television partners because it is typically the lowest rated TV night of the week. Yeah. Well, why is it typically the lowest rated TV night of the week? Because on Friday nights, people are usually out doing social things and starting their weekends. And yeah, I mean, you do have high school football. I mean, there are other things, but high school football is very, very regional. Friday's been and Saturday night too, for that matter, they've always been very difficult nights to program because not as many people are in front of televisions. Do we anticipate any dramatic change in our world reality right now where in a year or even two, Friday and Saturday nights are going to be these big going out nights again where people gather in mass and go to restaurants and parties and things like that? I don't think so. So maybe now here is your window. Here is your opportunity to take Friday night and put an event there and make it theirs. And it might not be Friday. It might be Wednesday. It might be Monday, to be totally honest with you. I think that's one thing the NFL did really well back in the 70s, when fewer games were televised. But, you had everyone play on Sunday, and then you had Monday night, the big marquee feature game that kind of capped off the weekend and tied a knot on the story of that particular week in the NFL. Now, in terms of MLS, one of your major TV partners is not going to want to counter-program something that they literally pay $30 million a game to show.
Yeah.
That's ESPN and Monday Night Football. I mean, ESPN's never going to counter-program that. And Fox might get pressure from the NFL to not counter-program that. But ESPN and Fox might not be your TV partners in the next deal. Or you might have a new TV partner come in, whether it be CBS or Turner or someone like that. So, yeah, I think you're on to something about game of the week, but I think you have to think outside the box on where you put that game. And I also think you need to have flex scheduling. And that gets very complicated as well for a league that so desperately depends on match day revenue. If Atlanta United is playing, I don't know, Orlando, and it's initially scheduled for a Sunday afternoon where you're going to have a full 71,000. Now, on a week and a half notice, Fox takes that game and puts it on Monday night. There's no way you're going to be able to expect your fans who live in Greenville and Birmingham and Macon and Augusta and all the people that come in for those weekend games to fill the entire stadium. There's no way you're going to be able to expect those people to come in on short notice, take a day off work, and go to a Monday night game. So that's a big hurdle, too. You want the game of the week to have the best matchup, which is why you need to have the flex scheduling. But I don't know if owners in this league would be all about that, because I think they would stand to put a lot of their match day revenue at risk.
Yeah, that's you're going for that idea of appointment viewing. And at the same time, because of this delicate dance that you have, Mike, with trying to get as much game day revenue as you can to try to draw folks to that appointment viewing who aren't at the game, I think this is that yin and yang that they're having to fight and trying to figure something like this out.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, John, I mean, if your TV contract triples or quadruples on the next deal, then you're less reliant on that match day revenue.
Right.
You know, you're getting way, way more off your broadcast contract, and then that takes a lot of the pressure off. But I don't know. I mean, like they tried the Soccer Saturday thing for a while. I do remember that, maybe like a decade plus. It just gets really, really tough once you get into the fall to do that. So, you know, look, there are smarter people than I. Like Dan Quartermash is a way, way smarter guy than I. I'm sure these are conversations they're having up at the league office every day. And you know, they have owners who are involved in the NFL now who have been part of those broadcast contract negotiations, and they have a lot of wisdom and knowledge to inject into this as well. So hopefully they find a way to do it. But I think if you're going to do a game of the week, you've got to have the flex scheduling be part of it, because you don't want to have, for example, this year, you don't want to have, quite honestly, I mean, I'll be totally frank with you, you know, you could have been looking at Atlanta, LA Galaxy as a major marquee game back in January when you're making the schedule. Now you look at it, and Atlanta hasn't played well, and Galaxy, you know, obviously Chicharito's been in and out for them, but they haven't played all that well. You don't want to run the risk of having that be your game of the week locked in months ahead of schedule, when on the same weekend you could have a very intriguing game between Orlando and Philadelphia. That could be a way better game.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see this over time. You know, right now it feels like your big teams are your big ratings draws as opposed to your teams who are good at the moment, and maybe that changes.
And not to interrupt, I mean, it's not an accident that Atlanta-Orlando was picked by Fox and moved to prime time 2 weeks from Saturday. That's not an accident. And it's not an accident that they put Atlanta United in that one network TV spot they had in the tournament. I mean, Atlanta and the LA teams are your major ratings drivers right now in this league. So that is not coincidental or accidental in any way.
And one more before you go. Lots of people have asked about CBS and the work they've done with UEFA and really starting to put resources towards soccer. Maybe CBS would be a potential good home in the next deal?
Well, here's the thing. If CBS is going to get in on this, you know, whether they split the rights with someone else or, well, there are a couple different things in play. First of all, it sounds like local and national are going to be bundled in the next deal. Okay. So you've got to partner with a network that has either great streaming capability or a willingness to sub-license the local rights to, you know, whether it be Fox Sports South or, you know, NBC Sports Boston, or you know what I mean? The regional TV partners that are showing games locally right now. So there has to be a willingness to sub-license, or you need someone with very robust streaming capability. Now CBS checks that box with all access. I'm going to be quite honest with you guys. It's not good for the growth of the league if 80% of CBS's matches are on CBS Sports Network. That is not an acceptable solution for me for this league. You've got to be on a linear channel that people can find. Sadly, that's ESPN, kind of FS1, kind of sort of NBCSN. CBS Sports Network is such a distant fourth.
Turner?
You got to be really... Yeah, yes. Turner is someone that I think would make a ton of sense because you have the BR Live. Mm-hmm. But if Turner gets it, they've got to put more into it than they did for UEFA.
Yeah.
So, and Turner might be looking at it too and saying, hey, it didn't really work out for us for UEFA, so why are we going to try with MLS? Turner also has shown willingness, though, to try before with soccer, whether it be the 1990 World Cup or the WUSA. Like, they have tried. Mm-hmm. So I would just say, be really, really careful if you're MLS, because sometimes taking more money to go smaller is not as good as taking less money to be on a bigger platform. Right now, you're in a really good position. And ESPN has not held up their end of the bargain from a promotional standpoint. That's a big problem that needs to be addressed, but people can still find ESPN easily. I would like to see the league in its next broadcast contract put mandates in that contract for promotional availabilities and make whoever is going to pick up this contract hold up their end of the promotional bargain. ESPN did not do that with this tournament. ESPN has really not done it since this tournament. I see their ad where they're touting all the live sports they're showing right now, and MLS is last in the promo behind, the WNBA and UFC and all that. That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. You need to find a partner that's going to treat you like a big deal. But I just think there's too much danger going with CBS. If they're going to put you on CBS Sports Network, you don't want to be there. I'm just telling you right now, that would be bad for the league. You do not want to be there.
It reminds me of the league when the NHL went to Sports Channel America.
Exactly. Yeah, and which, one of your strongest markets in the whole league at that time, John, Philadelphia. I remember as a kid, we didn't even have Sports Channel America. They had to work out a deal for the Calgary-Montreal Stanley Cup final. One of the VHF or UHF stations in Philadelphia had to pay Sports Channel to run it because no one was going to be able to see it. So you've got to be that was a really damaging move by the National Hockey League. Really damaging. It set them back by years. Mm-hmm. So you got to learn from those mistakes. Fortunately, I think MLS is going to have plenty of suitors. I think NBC will be one of them. I really do. And NBC did a really good job producing the league when they had them in 2014 and 2015. Remember, too, there are going to be some U.S. men's national team matches built into this package as well. Yep. So the MLS package is actually quite attractive to a number of networks. And I want to see the league be very, very cautious about abandoning linear TV partners who are important in growing the league.
Mike, let everybody know how they can listen to us tomorrow.
6:30, 92.9 The Game, and radio.com.
All right. Can't wait to get in there. It's going to be weird, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's been a weird week for me, guys. I don't know. It's just it's weird. I mean, I'm looking forward to doing the game, obviously, but it's not going to be the same, and I would be dishonest if I said I wasn't really bummed out about the circumstances surrounding all this. It's not what I want to see, but we got a job to do, and we'll do it. And I'm definitely looking forward to calling the game. I'm sure once we have kickoff, we won't notice all the weirdness around us.
We will yell loud enough to try to make up for a lot of 17s.
There you go.
Well, Ted Uncle's the referee, so you can already count on that.
Thanks.
Trigger Chris Penso's your VAR.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. He'll hear us, too, if we're yelling. That's
interesting. The funniest thing of all, did you see who the fourth is?
No.
The referee from that Cincinnati game.
Oh, boy. Good times.
Yeah. So it's quite the crew tomorrow. It's a really good crew. Corey Rockwell's one of the AR. It's actually a really good crew. I'm joking. But, yeah, we're going to see all kinds of familiar faces there tomorrow.
All right. We'll see you at the stadium tomorrow afternoon.
Hopefully, yeah. I guess we're still trying to figure out what time we can get in there. But, yeah, looking forward to that. And, Jason, I texted you, by the way. That thing we were supposed to do today we aren't doing now.
Got it.
So, okay, guys. Take care.
See you, Mike.
Good.
See ya.
All right, Mike Conti. Make sure you're following him, Mike Conti929 on Twitter. Make sure you're following our next guest, Doug Robertson HAC on Twitter. And let's see if the virtual producer can go 2 for 2.
There you go.
Doug might have went out back to the golf course.
Yeah, well, that'd be my first question for Doug.
I don't know. The weather's not good.
Well, that's true.
Doug, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Good. Sorry, we ran just a little bit long, and I was afraid of trying to get multiple people on the line and losing everybody.
Party
That's all right.
I don't have party line capabilities like the old 900 numbers.
All right.
How have you been, my friend?
I've been fine. I've been fine. It's nice to have what looks like a consistent schedule in front of us for the next few weeks.
Yeah, at least 3 of them. This is, I mean, it's weird. None of us have ever been in this situation before. The teams haven't, the players haven't, the coaches haven't, and now you've got all kinds of interesting things with an interim manager and Stephen Glass in. You've had a chance to talk to him a couple of times. What do you think of Stephen?
He's confident, which is good. It sounds like he's got definable tactics that he wants the guys to follow, which is also good. And so we just got to see if they can execute it. I mean, Pitti said Frank had definable tactics. We just couldn't pull them off in interviews yesterday. So that's going to be the interesting thing.
And, you're going up against a Nashville team that they were built where you have folks like Daniel Levitz, Walker Zimmerman. It's solid at the back. And so, philosophically, I mean, you're going up against a first-year team that's not built like a first-year team, and having already seen them once, but you're getting to see them again with an entirely different dynamic now with a new guy on the touchline for Atlanta United.
Yeah, I mean, Nashville's a defensive team. They're not going to change much. So if Atlanta United is going to get to attack, this would be the perfect starting game for that, because they're not going to have to worry too much about Nashville getting forward. They are going to have to worry about the counterattacks. But if they have Miles Robinson back there, he can he's a one-man breaker-upper of counterattacks in most instances.
Can we get that on a T-shirt? I like that.
One-man breaker-upper.
That might be our next Soccer Down Here T-shirt, Doug.
There you go. Glad to provide.
We are trying to entertain the folks. That's what we're here to do. There's been a lot of questions about Jurgen Damm and Kubo Torres, and I know you've kind of gone back and forth on it. I have too, about how much we kind of expect to see them tomorrow. What is your expectations of these two, and how many minutes they could go?
Well, based upon Steven's answers yesterday, and I think what Miles Robinson had said, I don't expect either of the players to start. Steven was asked about them a couple of times. They kept referencing that their fitness level wasn't as high as their teammates, and that's understandable. And with so many games coming up, it wouldn't make sense to me to start them in this game and then risk not being able to use them at all maybe in the Wednesday game. I think you'll see them in the 18, but if they do play, I think it'll be as coming off the bench. And if needed, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, just to kind of get their legs under them and give them a taste of MLS, and then see what happens on Wednesday.
So then is this in your mind where we see an Adam John up top, and we try to see with him up there, is that big presence going up against those physical defenders? Is that what you're thinking?
That's kind of $1 million question, but yeah, I mean, that's what I think I would do if I were Stephen Glass. DeBoer kind of did it the opposite in Orlando, and it obviously didn't work out very well. If I were Stephen, I would put Adam John up top to deal with Zimmerman and the other tall center back that Nashville has, to try to knock down some balls to late runners by Pitti, Barco, and Hyndman if they all start.
Who worries you the most for Nashville, as you've had a chance to see them a couple of times against Dallas? They look better than they did when we saw them at the beginning of the season, I think.
Yeah, they look better, but they're still not great. They've still only scored, 2 goals, I think, all season.
Yep, that's right.
They don't offer a whole lot going forward. I think I wrote last week, they have a bunch of strikers and forwards who have never really shown in their leagues that they can be kind of the bell cow guy. They might get hot for a little bit, but it's not going to last forever. So, I mean, if Atlanta United can stay on the front foot and get that first goal early, and that's what Glass wants to do. He basically said, why do we want to wait around yesterday, which to me is kind of not a knock or an indictment on DeBoer, under DeBoer. Then I just don't see Nashville scoring again in this game.
what's it been like for you to cover a coaching change in a team that has all the expectations, both self-imposed and externally from the fans? What's it been like for you to cover this transition? And now we're to the point to where the rubber's going to hit the road in this first match. What's this whole transition been like for you?
Part of it's been frustrating, to be quite honest. I did get to speak to Darren Eels immediately after the decision, and I appreciated that. But then we went, I think, 3 weeks before we got to talk to players. So we never got to get, fresh opinions on the managerial change. Didn't really get to get any expectations of what they hope to accomplish under Stephen Glass. So that was a little bit frustrating. And that combined with the fact that rightfully we can't watch training because of COVID and MLS rules, and I've got no complaints with that. It's just, it's been a little bit of fumbling around trying to figure out what's going to happen and what we're going to see on Saturday.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. I mean, it's different for, all of us, but, with you, you're there every day for training. You're seeing everything that you can see, and now it's just difficult. It feels like when I'm preparing for this game, I feel like I'm guessing more than usual about what it looks like, and maybe that's down to just Stephen Glass being in charge and not really having seen him with wide open tactics, but it feels like we're all kind of guessing at the moment, right?
Yeah, it does. And, he has not revealed anything about formation or specifics of tactics other than they want to be aggressive and get forward and kind of go back to the way that they played, presumably he's talking about under Gerardo Martino. We kept asking yesterday because he keeps talking about putting Pitti and Barco and other players in positions to succeed, and really just couldn't get a good idea of what that means or where is that going to be. Miles Robinson shared a little bit about them being able to find pockets of space between the lines and then turn and run at center backs. But that was part of what Frank was trying to accomplish too. And it just, it seldom happened.
Seeing what we saw in Orlando and seeing what we saw before that when the season had all this promise back in segment 1, who are you most looking forward to seeing here in segment 3 of this season as everything tries to get back on the 18-game proposed schedule for the end of the season? Who are you most looking forward to seeing in this new Atlanta United lineup?
Pitti and Barco. This is Pitti showed in Argentina that he is a quality player, but it hasn't happened yet consistently with Atlanta United. And if Stephen Glass comes in and Pitti still isn't, I guess, producing the way that people expected when he first signed, then I think some people are going to wonder, well, were the issues on offense Frank's, or were they Pitti's? Were they Barco's? What was the reason? And I want to see Pitti play like we saw in Argentina, and we just haven't seen that yet. I would like to see Barco be able to consistently stay on the field and show what he can do, which because of injuries, he has not been able to do that yet. Pitti is 27 years old now. He still wants to go to Europe. If he is going to get there, he has got to put together, in my opinion, a good segment 3, it's, I think, going to be a challenge to make that happen.
You had an article earlier this week kind of giving a glimpse of what the game day feel could be a little bit. And we've had a lot of questions from people watching on Twitch about crowd noise and how that's going to come across. They're going to play some things in the stadium, right?
Yeah, so the team is going to do its best to replicate a traditional game day atmosphere. There's going to be kind of a virtual golden spike, not signing, but they're going to put it up on the big pylon where the American flag is shown in the introductions. And through a certain hashtag people can use on social media, their photos will appear like within the spike, so to speak. There's not going to be pyrotechnics after Atlanta United scores, assuming it scores, because it hasn't in 395 minutes.
True.
There's going to be halo board images of the fans celebrating the goals. There is going to be audio that they've recorded from past games that they're going to try to play throughout the game to give a feel that there are people there during the game. Things like that, because this is the players, the team spoke a lot with the players. The players said they want this. They want that normal feeling as much as they can get so that they can try to play well. And, I wrote today, Atlanta United, this isn't specific to Atlanta United, but it has shown that in smaller stadiums and smaller crowds, it can be difficult to motivate. So they need some juice, so to speak, particularly for this game.
What do you think about, and I guess this is outside of what we're seeing inside arenas, but when you're watching a game on television, what do you think about the artificial crowd noise that's piped in and all of those other things as a part of the viewing and listening experience?
To be honest with you, I barely notice it anymore. It never really bothered me or made me happy, when they started doing it, when television started doing this. The sound that you'll hear in Saturday's game is going to be the sound from the stadium. Fox Sports South is using that audio. They're not using canned audio, is my understanding. I'm talking with Kevin Egan and Dan Gargan at 11 o'clock for a Southern Fried Soccer podcast, and hopefully they can provide some more information about that. But it never really bothered me one way or the other. I mean, if marketing research done by the broadcasters show that the audience likes it, then I don't blame them for trying to do it. And I think they've gotten better at, making it louder when I do notice it for good plays and quiet for, I guess, bad plays. They haven't done the whistling yet. I haven't heard that yet in a game, which to me seems a little silly. But, more power to them.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of faded into the background for me. If it's there, fine. When it's good, I don't really notice it. When it's bad, I might notice it.
When it's late.
It's late or out of sync or whatever, then I might notice it. But it's just kind of there for me. Before we get to predictions, Doug, need your thoughts on Liverpool's opening match against Leeds in the new Premier League season.
Yes.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it is.
Leeds, I'm really curious to see who Leeds tries to buy. And they got to do it quickly if they're going to try to follow the West Ham model or if they're going to try to follow the Sheffield United model. I think they're good enough to follow the Sheffield United model and just plug in some players here and there. I think Liverpool's going to win. They've just got too much talent not to win. But it's going to be really fun to see Leeds United back in the first division, the top division of English football, after everything that franchise has gone through.
I'm totally with you. I think the styles are going to be a lot of fun in that game too.
Yeah.
That will be a must-watch on week 1.
Yeah. Bielsa, I can't wait to see, especially when he's got a few months to prepare, just how – I would love to see the dossier on this game.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
The PowerPoint presentation against Liverpool.
It's going to be a phone book.
Easily.
If I had to guess.
That's one I would like to read. Yeah, I would like to read that one when it's done. It's going to be fun when we get back into that. But we've got MLS before we get there. We've got 6 games coming up, so we'll be talking to you a lot on Fridays and Wednesdays. Let's get some predictions on the board. This is a really hard one to predict in my mind. I feel like we're all grasping at straws. But, John, you're going to start us off.
Okay, well, I'll start you off. Jarrett says 3-1 tomorrow. New manager bump has them playing free and creating plenty of chances, even without new pieces. Nick also agrees on the new manager bump and says it'll be 3-2 Atlanta. I'm
2 goals for Nashville?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Well, and I was going to go the other way. I was going to say it was going to be 1-0 Atlanta United. I think that Gary Smith defensively with that back four that he has, I think it's going to be a frustrating day. I think that it's going to take a while for the engine to turn over for Atlanta United. I think they get one probably early second half after the adjustments have been made, and then I just don't see Nashville scoring. I think Atlanta gets one on the board and gets out with full points, 1-0.
Okay. Doug, what are you thinking?
I think Atlanta United wins 2-0. I don't see Nashville scoring. I have no idea who's going to score for Atlanta United because I think that 6 of the positions are still kind of up for grabs in the starting 11. I think up the spine, Guzan, Meza, Robinson, and Hyman are probably definite starters. So it's 7 positions. I'm sorry. 7 positions. Oh, and I'm sorry. Martinez and Barco.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My math is off. Yes. So 5 positions are up for grabs. But I think Atlanta United wins 2-0.
I can't believe I'm actually the one going with this score line and nobody said it. I'm going with 2-1.
Driving slipper lock of the week.
I'm going lock of the week. I don't have velvet driving slippers at all. I've got.
John has quite a few pairs you can borrow.
No, I don't want to borrow them. I'm not. That's not my style. I can't pull that off.
Bit of 13.
No, I'm doing the Sambas lock of the week, I guess, and going 2-1. I think Nashville finds something because I think they're gonna press a little bit more than we're accustomed to. I think they showed some elements of it, and if you add Alex Moyle into that team, they might be a little feistier than we saw at times against Dallas. Mukhtar and Leal are 2 players I really like, but I think even as good as they were defensively against Dallas, they gave up space in certain spots, and I think Atlanta has a team that's maybe built a little bit better to exploit that in those pockets that was talked about yesterday. Hyndman, I could see being a player who exploits that. He gets forward well, and he might have a little more freedom to do that. And Pitti and Barco, I think, are going to find space to operate in too. Now, do they deliver? They need to. If you're going to get a 2-1, you're going to have good days out of Barco and Pitti. A goal from one of them and an assist from the other one at a minimum, I think, is what you need to get that kind of result. But 2-1's where I'm at. I think we're all thinking Atlanta's the better team, but we don't exactly know how it's going to look tomorrow. Doug, I'm sure that you're going to have some articles that are going to try to explain that between now and then.
Yeah, I posted a little look at Nashville this morning. I posted 5 things to watch for Saturday's game. That's already up. You can find that at Doug Robertson AJC on Twitter or at Atlanta United News Now on Facebook. And I'm going to have, as I said before, a Southern Fried Soccer podcast talking with Kevin Egan and Dan Gargan that will hopefully post noonish. For that, I am going to the stadium tomorrow for this game. And Sunday afternoon, you'll have kind of a story on the weirdness of playing an MLS game with no fans in a 70-something thousand seat stadium. Yep. So I'm looking forward to that.
Southern Fried Soccer tomorrow in some form or fashion?
I would love that.
I think we can find some space where we can socially distance and do this.
Socially distanced Southern Fried Soccer.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can yell. I should still have a voice by the end of this unless it gets really weird.
There we go.
We'll see. We'll figure it out, though, for sure. I'm looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing you, and looking forward to getting back into whatever this is tomorrow. We'll see.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Doug.
Bye-bye.
Make sure you're following him, Doug Robertson, AJC, on Twitter. And if you are not a subscriber and you are able to check out their digital options, very affordable, very reasonable amount for the amount of content you get on Atlanta United every day from Doug, and covers all of it. So if you can find money for a subscription, please do so. It's just vital this time right now where you're seeing a lot of companies cut back, and I don't want to see the AJC cut back. I think it's very, very important. Chris Ashley's fired up because I slipped the Leeds Liverpool question in because I knew he was watching. I wanted to make sure that got in there. I thought it was fair, Chris. I thought it was a very fair answer from a Liverpool fan in Doug. I thought he was very complimentary of Leeds. I'm looking forward to that game. That's going to be a fun one.
It's going to be a fun one. Looking forward. Like I said, I want to see the dossier. I want to see the PowerPoint presentation that Bielsa would have come up for with this particular match. And I think that the dossier for those watching on Twitch will be about 2 or 3 inches thick on Liverpool.
I think you're underselling it. I think it will be massive, and we'll have multiple DVDs attached to it. Probably VHS tapes when you're talking about Bielsa. He goes old school.
Box sets.
All right, what do we got on the Twitters as we get close to wrapping up?
All right, Mr. Green, the Falcoholic, says he'll take a 1-1 draw for Atlanta-Nashville tomorrow. Miles Robinson levels for us at the death with everyone forward. He has Inter whitewashing Sevilla this afternoon 4-0, and he says he's blitz_money on the Twitch.
Oh, hey, okay. Now we're combining the worlds here. Okay, cool.
Yes. And we have a lot of folks who are asking about the pre-sale and how do they do it for the Peachtree postcard.
I think I've answered all of them. John, you need to pay attention. I've been busy over here doing a show, producing a show, answering questions. Go to our Twitter, @SoccerDownHere, see the post, follow the instructions in said post. It's that simple. And we'll take care of you. And people have been doing this, and thank you very much for doing that. Limited supply. We didn't do a big run of these. Very limited. We'll have another one coming out in a couple of months to kind of start a new initiative, but probably 4 to 6 weeks away on that. So this is a very limited Peachtree Post throwback scarf setup. Yes, Ricky. Yeah, I think you were one of them. I think quite a few people were asking for Peachtree Post stuff. There will be T-shirts on the Teespring store as well to go alongside of this. So thanks to all you guys who listened in the Peachtree Post days, and so many of y'all have listened to SDH from very early on in 2017, and we wanted to do a little bit of a throwback with the Peachtree Post stuff and with a Mucha Plata y'all on the other side. So there you go.
Daniel Price is in this morning. He says, I'll say this about last night. I miss Nagby. His prediction for tomorrow, 2-0 Atlanta. I think Glass has a strong debut. Daniel is thinking a 4-3-1-2 formation is what you end up on. He's very excited. And with last night's action, Daniel says he was also very unimpressed with the Union. Columbus is the biggest contender for the Cup from the East right now.
Yeah, Philadelphia was flat. I'm still skeptical of Columbus. I think I'm the only one. That's fine. I understand that. I want to see how they hold up over the season. I don't trust them in the spine defensively. That's my biggest question about them, and I think that could come back to hurt them. I think Philly's better than they were last night. Last night they didn't really show enough at all. It was disappointing. We will see. Let's see.
We got one more on Twitter, and then we're cleaned up.
Okay, go ahead.
Rich Ransom says, is CBS Sports Network / All Access low-key becoming the next great soccer / sports channel?
It's getting there. I love the commitment to it. I did see there's a great piece over at World Soccer Talk, and Jonathan Tannewald had a piece as well, kind of digging deeper into the behind the scenes and how they've put everything together. I love how seriously they've taken it. I love the commitment they have shown to it. I also love that right now they're talking about the VAR decision with Sean Johnson on Teise in Argentina, which is kind of fun. I'm getting a better view at this right now. Did he keep it out? I think he did. I still think he did.
I still think that if you extend the goal line up to infinity, that there's a part of that ball that is right there. So
yeah, I still think he did. CBS, I've been really happy with it because they've done it the right way. And one thing that I like as well that hasn't gotten enough play in this is that they do have an outlet covering these games from an American perspective, and that has been much appreciated. Doesn't mean you have to do it that way, but I also think it doesn't mean that you can't have quality from an American perspective either, which is where some of this conversation has gone. And obviously, I'm going to put my hand up and be a little upset about that because I don't think it's fair. There are good voices in the game with all kinds of different accents, and I just want a good voice. I don't care if it's male or female either. I think, it's all about the quality of the content. And it's been great to see CBS, not from they have European voices on it. It's because they have quality people on it. They've put a great crew together to do this. And CBS Sports HQ has put together a quality group as well with a lot of different voices on it. So it's been very cool to see them not just throw one little thing at it, not just throw one little studio show here, but to give you a full package of everything. And I'm with Burned. I like that CBS is including women's soccer in this conversation as well and not pushing it off to the side. You have the Women's Champions League now, and you're going to get those. That's great. NWSL they took seriously. These things are really, really good. CBS has done a very, very good job. Very, very good job. And I want to see this continue and continue and continue. Do they get into the domestic game? That's going to be the question. Because at times we see it happen like this where it feels like NBC did it. They got their feet wet with MLS, and then they said, okay, we're going to go into the Premier League, and yeah, we're not going to pay for MLS anymore. It's got to be both. It's got to be, in this country, I think you need the domestic component. Now, CBS has the NWSL, which is great, and they do take it very seriously, and they put it on the same level. I want to see the commitment to the American game as well, because I think you do need both to be truly that voice that I think Rich is kind of pointing them at. I think you need more domestic coverage. And if that is NWSL and a CBS Sports HQ weekly show on MLS or on, the American game or whatever, cool. You can find that even if you don't have the rights. But I want to see where they go from here. It's been a great start.
Yep. Are you attacking the Twitch pitch right now?
I'm not attacking them. That's not cool.
No, I mean, are you going into it and discussing what people are saying?
Why are you trying to make me attack people?
I'm not having you attack people. I'm just asking a question. Are you going to see what's in the timeline on the Twitch pitch? That's my question.
You said...
Are you... It's just a veracity. It's a veracity element. It has nothing to do with personal one-on-one angst with what somebody says.
Word
it's just
choice.
Going after. It's like me when I look at the Twitter and I'm like, oh, that's veracity. You're going after it with effort. Because are we in stoppage time? That's my next question.
We are. It's after 11 o'clock, so we're in stoppage time. Yes, we're not running out the door. No.
No. But I'm going to go take care of a dog. I'll be right back.
Okay. People are worried about you on the Twitch pitch. People are like, they want me to attack people.
No. I just got to go take care of a dog. I'll be right back.
I'm not attacking. And yes, I think it is officially going to be the Twitch pitch. I'm very sorry, Captain, and others who were lobbying very hard for other names. The locker room was one. There was a bunch of different names that got thrown out. And you guys can still call it that. But I think officially it will be the Twitch pitch. And thanks for hanging out. Captain's not sad, just disappointed. You guys are great. Sean, I'm working on John's technology. We're trying. We're trying to figure this out. It's been a bit of a challenge. We'll get there. This is going to be an interesting one tomorrow in a big way for me. It's weird because of the situation. It's weird because of no fans in the building. It's weird because of just where the world is right now. It's weird because this is the first time Atlanta United's been in this situation with an interim manager in a league match. It's weird because they've never been in this situation with such a long, goalless drought. It's weird in that, you're playing an expansion team and not the overwhelming favorite in a lot of people's minds. It's weird that you're playing without Joseph Martinez. And, we still have questions about what the attack's going to look like. It's a weird day going into it. It's a weird vibe because you're not going to get that excitement that even where there's been a questioning vibe coming into a game. You get into the stadium, especially with the 17s, loud, flags waving, chanting, fire going off, smoke going off, all the stuff that happens in the stadium. Even when it's weird coming in, that kind of snaps you back into, okay, this is Atlanta United. You're not going to get that tomorrow. I'm not. I'm going to be in there, and there's not going to be that reaction that kind of gets us back in. So it's going to be strange. I really, really hope that you get the performances that this team expects. I really hope that you get the vibe of Atlanta United back, because that has not been there maybe since Joseph Martinez got injured, to be perfectly honest. There's been a little bit in my mind of revisionist history about 2020. I thought Atlanta United played very well against Motagua. I thought they played well in the first half in Nashville. Nashville's a good team, and I thought they played well on the road in that game. When Joseph got hurt, everything changed. The trip to Mexico, you were struggling to find a back line that made any sense, and you're missing Joseph, and it showed. It absolutely showed. I hope that with a change in leadership in Stephen Glass, who's going to come in fresh and come in with a different personality, and personality is not a, yes, this is the right personality, no, this is the wrong personality. It's personality, and you can never feel chemistry until you get into it. I think Steven is the absolute perfect kind of personality for this group right now to help shake that up and shake that negativity off of it. I think he's going to get this group really getting back to who they were and who they want to be. The Frank DeBoer interview with Felipe was fascinating about some of the different elements to it. I think Frank wanted the players to get there in terms of tactics and get there in terms of some of this vibe on their own, which is a European perspective. That's not a crazy idea. That's what a lot of managers do. Maybe it just didn't click. And he said that. He said maybe he should have done things differently. The players wanted more tactical information. They wanted more feedback. I think Steven, working here a little bit longer, being here a little bit longer, is going to have maybe a better feel for that element. Steven also played in Europe and knows that background too. He has the player mentality as well. But I think he's going to be able to bridge that gap between the two. Because it sounds like, and we're all connecting dots from what players have said, from what Frank said to Felipe, from what people have reported. We're all connecting those dots. And I think that middle ground of where Stephen Glass can fit into and giving more of that information that the players seem like they want and they need, but also giving them their space. Because you want the players to take ownership. You don't want to, and this is something that Stephen has mentioned many times in talking to us about the twos, you don't want to have to solve the problems for them from the touchline. Because now, tomorrow you could, because you can yell very loudly and people will hear you. In a normal situation, nobody's hearing the coach yelling like that. The players have to solve those problems. I think Frank wanted them to get there on their own. It didn't get there. So you need that in between. And I think Stephen Glass will be the right one. And I think his mood, his personality will be a big lift for this team. And it sounds like that's what we're starting to hear behind the scenes. Now it has to come out on the field. I hope that changes the mood within the fan base that has gotten very negative about a team that's had a ton of success in 3 years, unprecedented success in 3 years. It really has gotten strange, in my opinion, in terms of, to the point we talked about the Darlington Nagbe conversation at the beginning. It's like things are getting twisted into different shapes now that I don't know if the track record's there to do that, to be honest. It's been pretty good. Hasn't been great lately. It needs to get back to where it was. But it's been really good in 3 years. We've been really lucky to have that. And lucky to have the quality, and I think the investment and all of that. There's always room to grow. There's always decisions that you'd like to take back. All that happens. But I think the negativity around it has festered a bit. And I hope that Stephen Glass being involved, I hope that his personality lifts the team and their vibe lifts all of us. Because, to be perfectly honest, we could all use a little bit of a lift right now. Following, covering all of it with Atlanta United, I think we could all use a little bit of a lift in our personal lives right now with what we're all dealing with. So I hope that Atlanta United gives us that tomorrow. I think the pieces are in place for it. But the pieces being in place don't always do that in soccer. Sometimes things still go against you. Sometimes things still fall apart. I like where it's going. I like the direction of where it's headed now, and I hope it gets there. Because with Frank, we saw elements of it getting there. You got over that line for a while, you came back. It just never consistently stayed there. I hope that this puts us on the road to staying in that area of being one of the top, exciting, powerful, controlling teams in this league. And I hope we get to continue to see that. And I hope we start that road tomorrow. And I hope these next 6 games are a vital step in that direction.
Completely and totally second what you were saying, and a couple of other things, I guess, before we go to mop up some stuff. Jan Gregish, I feel like Tony Reale now at the end of
that's fine.
Of the end of the show. Jan Gregish did sign as a DP in late January of 2020 with Minnesota United.
Well, he signed last year,
right? But he's a DP.
He got bumped up.
It was released as a DP. The information was released as a designated.
What? Okay.
See, I have to get my modifiers right here.
You said 2020. He played last year.
Well, but what I'm saying is that the postmark on the information that I saw said January 28, 2020. Gregish is a designated player.
Yes, okay, that's better. They have two. They have an open spot, so there's no point in buying him down if his number's above that, because you have an open spot. You're not going to spend allocation money if you don't have to yet. He would be one that I would assume could be bought down. All right, John, if you're going to play the role of Tony Reale, you got to really play the role of Tony Reale and get everything for us here, because you did.
Kev C says, heads up, even if you're logged in for Pick 6 on MLS, you have to click your profile and add a name. Otherwise, the submit button doesn't work.
Okay, stop. Here's the deal on Gregish. He is on a base salary of $750,000. That makes him a designated player. But that is I think that's using $150,000 of allocation money to buy him down, which is nothing. Nothing at all. You have an open spot, so you don't need to waste the allocation money on buying him down right now. So that could change with Reynoso coming in, who Toto Dynamo on the Twitch pitch, really high on Reynoso coming out of Boca. I want to see how he fits. I've heard both things about him at Boca, and I haven't studied his game at Boca as closely as Toto Dynamo, so I want to see how he fits. I want to see how he can fit with that team. Does he push Molino out of the lineup? Because Adrian Heath loves Molino. Does he become that guy? He would be your third designated player, and then if you wanted to go get another one, you could buy Gregish down. But technically, yeah, he's a designated player.
And the Airborne DJ says, why is it whenever I talk about food, it's like I speak another language?
I don't know.
As if my native language is something else, and Google Translate is giving me bad translations with things like gamey muffins and vermicelli instead of spaghetti.
Yes. Yeah, why did you go vermicelli? That was weird.
Well, because when I was growing up, that was what my mom would say. That's what she would buy, and on the box it said vermicelli, and so that's
a different pasta, John.
Hey, I'm just going by what my mom said when I was growing up.
John, do you know that there is a difference between linguine and spaghetti?
Yeah, it's the width is different.
Okay, we'll just leave it there.
And let's see. And while I was gone, the Twitch pitch became official?
Yes, it's official.
Okay. All right.
I made a proclamation. The Twitch pitch is demanding you get headphones, like real ones, I guess.
Okay. Okay, Twitch pitch.
And where's your microphone?
It is you and the folks that bought the local streaming rights package for Seattle need to have a discussion about that.
I didn't have anything to do with it.
That's who I purchased it from, and it is in that limbo of being purchased and shipped, where the dark blue van comes and drops it off at your door.
Man, you ordered the thing like a month ago. What are you doing?
Yeah,
here?
I know. I need to check my order and figure out when it was supposed to be here.
Oh man.
No,
okay.
It was ordered. I dropped a decent amount of money on said microphone, so I'm waiting for that. Yeah.
I don't know, y'all. I'm trying, man. I'm doing the best I can. Yeah, don't tell John about bucatini. You ever had bucatini, John?
Probably, but I couldn't tell you what it looks like.
No, you've never had it then. Forget it. Not happening. Bucatini's good stuff. I like bucatini, Passine. I do like it. I did finally get my my tennis shoes that I'd ordered a while ago that FedEx lost and then put back on a truck and then took it back to the facility and then said that it created another tracking number, but then they couldn't help me find it, and it was all bizarre, and then they finally just showed up. So I got my shoes. I'm excited.
Well, at least you got your shoes. I didn't get dinner last night and had to go out and retrieve it.
You had to do what?
I had to go and retrieve dinner and order it a second time.
Okay.
The particular app that was tied to the restaurant that the boss and I wanted to get food from last night.
You can call them out, John. It's okay. We don't have a relationship with them.
I can't remember which one it was.
No, you don't even know.
No, it's one of the newer ones. And you order online for the restaurant, and they're supposed to ship it to you. No, they're supposed to deliver it to the house. This particular app gave you no real tracking information, gave you no contact information for the driver, and then said that the meal had been delivered when in fact it hadn't, and asked for a review of the driver. So I go out in the rain yesterday, and I'm walking up and down our side of the road in our subdivision trying to see if somebody had left a bag on a doorstep that resembled our food. That did not happen. So I had to call the restaurant. Then
this is an ordeal.
Get it ordered again after we said we didn't get our food and we weren't going to leave a review for the driver because we didn't know who he was and you didn't give us our food, and they refund the money. So we reorder it, and I go to the restaurant to get it, have to write War and Peace explaining why I had to be there, because when I got to the restaurant, having ordered it online, I was shown up as having not ordered it. They had no record at the restaurant that I used the web to order the food. So I literally had to flash the email to the restaurant and go, see, I actually did order this. And they're like, yeah, you did. So we don't know what happened. And so apparently this particular restaurant is in transition from one online ordering app to the next. And so while I waited for our food to be prepared, I wrote down War and Peace, explaining what went wrong with the delivery and what went wrong with the online order as well. So it was 2 for 2, and food got to the house about an hour and a half after it should have been. So it was an adventures in food last night for me. And
this is John last night.
I am having a very bad day.
That was the boss last night.
I am in no mood.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely the boss last night. The Chiefs coach, Steve, says, didn't Bucatini play for Napoli?
Yes, he did. He scored a lot of goals back in 1943. Yes, it happened.
But, yeah, so last night was Adventures in Food Delivery and Ordering 101.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was. Can we
please have a naughty option somewhere in the chain?
Yeah, there were a lot of colorful metaphors that were used after all of that stuff that went down.
I think we're going to leave it on that note, because that's a good spot to stop, because things could go completely sideways if we keep going, and we're 17 minutes over. So you guys go eat lunch, do your thing, get back to work or whatever is going on for you today.
Thanks for hanging out with us all week.
Yes, come back at 7 o'clock, because Kelly Francis will be hosting the run-up and talking Atlanta and Nashville, and she would like your questions. She would like to hear from you as we do the show. It'll be on Twitch, twitch.tv/soccer down here on the Twitch pitch. It will also be on the app and everywhere else you listen live on the website, and you can listen to the podcast later. We'll be back tomorrow morning for a power hour at 10 o'clock. We'll get into some tactics of Atlanta-Nashville then. We'll look back at the Europa League final. We'll look at the games from tonight in MLS. We'll also do a little bit of a preview of the Champions League final tomorrow, 10 o'clock on Twitch and on the app, etc., etc. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, everybody who is pre-ordering the Peachtree Post scarf. We appreciate that. Go to twitter.com/soccer down here for the instructions. It is limited, so don't miss out. They might run out here, and you don't want to miss out on that one because we're not doing it again. So we'll be back at 7 with the run-up. Thanks for hanging out. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata, y'all.